Beloved, tomorrow is Valentine's Day. It also happens to be the anniversary for Sister Gibbs and myself. While we will celebrate, and many will celebrate the day, we are also aware that there are many people that will see it as a sad day, perhaps because they have not connected with a person that they can love and share their lives with, or they have had love that has been lost, maybe due to a broken relationship or worse, death. We come to discover that though the Bible tells us in scriptures like Romans 12 and 15 to rejoice with them that rejoice, when you are rejoicing, it's not always true that others will rejoice with you. But the same can be said when others are rejoicing. We don't always rejoice with them. It's not just about a day like Valentine's Day. Sometimes it can be a person rejoicing over their child's graduation, and another person is not happy because their child is not doing as well. A person can be rejoicing over the fact that they have career success, or they bought a house, or they're going on an exotic vacation. Not everyone is happy when other people are happy. That leads to the question and the concern: is happiness a choice or is it by chance? We all like to be happy. We all seek to be fulfilled. But we discover that many times we experience misery, though we don't think that we are looking for it, it seems to find us. Rachel Fernley says joy is more consistent and is cultivated internally. It comes when you make peace with who you are and why you are and how you are. Whereas happiness tends to be externally triggered and is based on other people, things, places, thoughts, and events. Since we seek to have happiness, and better yet, a joy, that which exceeds the exterior sense of happiness based on people, things, places, thoughts, and events, let's consider some reasons why we perhaps fail to really enjoy our lives more. There can be toxic thinking and bad behaviors that cause us to truly miss out on all that we can enjoy and experience in this life. Number one, we can be guilty of negative self talk. That is, telling ourselves that we cannot be happy. Though we don't openly admit this, many times we have thoughts and ideologies that tell us and reinforce with us that we cannot be happy because in some ways we have chosen not to be. It's kind of like the widow woman in the book of 1 Kings chapter 17, the widow woman of Zarephath. She came to the conclusion that she and her son had but just a little food left and were going to die. What a pessimistic, negative outlook on life. And at the same time, we choose to sometimes be unhappy by just saying it is what it is, or believing that we cannot be happy. Sometimes it's not our self talk, but it's our self tainting. And that is, we focus on our imperfections or perceived imperfections. We struggle with things like body image. We're too skinny or we're too fat. We're too tall or we're too short. We're too light or we're too dark. We allow ourselves to be tainted, at least to the extent that we believe we are tainted, not understanding that we have been made uniquely special by God. Or we focus on what we cannot do or what we have not done well, not recognizing that God still has something for us to do and something we can do well. Another toxic thinking pattern that causes us to not experience this happiness and the ultimate joy that we like is self evaluation. Now, it's good to evaluate ourselves, but sometimes we compare ourselves to others and we always assume that their lot is better in life. For example, you can take a person who is single, and of course, not every single person falls into this category, but they may assume that married people are just happy because they are married. Or you take a person who assumes that because they don't have money, somebody who has money must be happier. Whenever you start comparing yourself to other people's lots in life, you'll never appreciate where you are because you just assume that someone who has something you don't have is living a better life. This was the problem we see in 1 Corinthians chapter 13 when they were fighting over spiritual gifts. Some people just made the assumption that some kind of way God had cheated them or denied them something because gifts had been assigned to others and not to themselves. When you're busy looking at what someone else has, you'll fail to value what you have. Another toxic thinking comes in the form of self-sabotage. That is, thinking or believing in ways that foster dysfunction. Sometimes we have dysfunctional friends. Sometimes we have dysfunctional habits. Sometimes we have dysfunctional thinking, dysfunctional behavior. And people are so comfortable with dysfunction because it's predictable. And they will argue and defend their dysfunctional ways, will then complain why they're not getting a more favorable outcome. Another toxic thought process is selfishness. And that is choosing to be unhappy because someone else is happy. That's outright selfishness. If someone is doing well, it's not always about you. Allow others to have their moments. Allow them to have their time in the sun to shine, to blossom, to grow, and to enjoy what goes well in their lives. Can you ever really be happy when you're raining on someone else's parade? If someone else has love, for example, be happy for their love. If someone else's children are doing better than your children, be happy for their children. If someone is doing great on their job and maybe you don't have the same success, be happy for them. Taking away from them never adds to who you are. Another toxic thought process is being self-absorbed. That's just too focused on me, myself, and I. We should enjoy, value, and appreciate the blessings, the gifts, and the uniqueness in others. One of the hardest things to get people to understand is that it's not always about you. The temperature in the building does not have to be what makes you comfortable. The lighting doesn't have to be what makes you comfortable. Whatever it is in your family life, your church life, your job, everybody does not have to come to a standstill to accommodate your preferences. Just as you have a preference, others have one as well. And when you make it all about you, you are too self-absorbed, and self-absorbed people are never happy because they're always looking for more ways to continue being self-absorbed. The last thing that is toxic in our thinking that keeps us from happiness and ultimate fulfillment and joy is self-limitations. You know, the Bible teaches us to launch out into the deep, for example, with the disciples. Sometimes in our lives, we need to go deeper, step out in faith, trust God. Happiness for many people is supposed to come in a box, and they create the box. They're supposed to be married by a certain age. They're supposed to buy a house by a certain age. They're supposed to accumulate so much money by a certain age. They create these boxes. Have you ever thought about the beauty of life is exploring? It's getting out. It's getting outside the box. Get out your house. Get out your neighborhood. Get out your friend circle. Explore the world. There's beautiful people, there are beautiful sights, there are beautiful experiences. But if you stay in your box, you're severely limiting your ability to see all that God would have you to see. While we recognize the value of happiness in the lives that we have been given, let's make sure that we recognize that it's not always by chance. We do have a choice. Make some choices about your thinking and behavior, and you may find yourself just a little bit happier today than you were yesterday. This has been another installment of A Few Minutes with the Minister.